Hello, and welcome to Parkinson Canada's Parkinson's Awareness Month webinar. My name is Krista Duncan. My pronouns are he, him, and I am the Vice President of Strategy, Communications, and Technology here at Parkinson Canada. And I will be the moderator for today's webinar. Before we begin, we are happy to provide simultaneous translation for this webinar in English and French. Please use the buttons at the bottom of your screen to select your preferred language for listening. At the bottom of your screen, you will see an option that says Interpretation. Click the button and select English or French. To hear the interpreted language only, click Mute Original Audio. If you have any questions on how to set your language or need support, please use the chat function and let us know. And our technical team will be happy to assist and answer questions. Before we begin today, let me open with a land acknowledgement. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, Parkinson Canada acknowledges that we are gathered today on the customary and traditional lands of the Indigenous peoples of these here territories. While we meet today virtually, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land which we each call home. And I'm going to acknowledge the land that I am on today while we gather. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the First Credit Nations. This land is governed by the Dish with One Spoon covenant between the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and the Confederacy of Ojibwe and allied nations. This covenant is an agreement to share, work, and protect this land together in harmony. Today, this meeting is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live on this land. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral land and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nation people that call this country home. We will be hearing from a variety of voices today, but to start us off, I would like to introduce Parkinson Canada's President and CEO, Karen Lee, who uses pronouns she, her. She will be giving an introduction along with an overview to our session today.
Great, thank you so much, Cameron, and good afternoon and potentially late morning for some who are joining from the West Coast. I would like to welcome you all and thank you for joining our Your Partners in Parkinson webinar. This webinar has been organized as part of our combined efforts for Parkinson's Awareness Month, where we seek to highlight the different services that Parkinson Canada offers to people living with Parkinson's, their families, friends, care partners, and the healthcare professionals who treat those living with Parkinson's. For those of you who may be new to this organization, we have developed a video which I hope provides you all a good overview of what Parkinson Canada has to offer.
Over 100,000 Canadians live with Parkinson's. We have one of the highest rates in the world. My name is Karen Lee. I'm the CEO of Parkinson Canada. My late grandfather lived with Parkinson's disease, and I know very well the importance of family and how they have to come together to support one another, but most importantly, the person living with Parkinson's. That is why I am dedicated and committed to ensuring Parkinson Canada continues to empower those living with Parkinson's. Each year, our programs and services reach over 10,000 people. We are a community. We are here not only for the person living with Parkinson's, but their family, friends, and their care network to ensure we all continue to thrive. Our advocacy efforts are focused on raising the voices of people affected by Parkinson's. Our Parkinson Advisory Council is made up of people affected by Parkinson's from across the country. They bring a diverse background and experience, but most importantly, they provide me and the organization with advice on topics that are important to them and their community. As a scientist, I know the importance of investing in bold and novel ideas that lead to breakthrough discoveries. At the same time, bringing researchers, clinicians, and people living with Parkinson's to collaborate to push the needle in our understanding of Parkinson's disease. We invest in the next generation of researchers and clinicians to ensure that we continuously understand the Parkinson's disease and also the care management of people affected by Parkinson's. When I'm in the community, I want people to know that Parkinson Canada is with them on every step of their journey with Parkinson's disease. People often ask, when is the right time to connect with Parkinson Canada? Is it when they have their first diagnosis? Is it when their symptoms get worse? Or is it when they need more information and resources? The answer is now. Researchers and clinicians are working tirelessly to find a cure. Meanwhile, every single day, 25 more Canadians are diagnosed with Parkinson's. Our goal is to empower people affected by Parkinson's to live well now.
I hope that would give you a good overview of what Parkinson Canada offers, but really delighted today that we have many people from across the country. We'll talk a little bit more about the offerings of Parkinson Canada. So let me introduce you to a few people you'll be hearing today from. We have Maria Marano, our strategic projects and knowledge mobilization manager, who will speak a bit on Parkinson's and how it relates to Canadians. Then you will also hear from Bryce Perry, our Information Referral Manager, who will speak on the variety and essential services the Information and Referral team provide to the Parkinson community. And Krista Duncan, our Coordinator of Programs and Services, will be speaking with a support group facilitator, exploring ways to get engaged via our support groups. And finally, we have Graham Marshall-Coultis, our Volunteer Engagement Manager, who will touch upon the volunteer program and the Parkinson Advisory Council, offering insights on how to engage on those levels. Several links and documents will be mentioned in our different talks today, which will all be made available. Additionally, this webinar will be recorded and made available on our site, so don't feel like you have to scramble to write things down. At the end of our webinar, there will be a Q&A, so please feel free to post your questions at the bottom of the page. If you have questions of a personal nature and would like to reach out privately, you can also email communications@parkinson.ca and someone will get back to you. We really appreciate you taking the time today to learn about and share how we can support you on your journey with Parkinson's. With that, I'm excited to hand it over to Maria Marano, she, her in Ottawa, who will give us a brief overview of Parkinson's in Canada.
Thanks, Karen, and thanks everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today to share a little bit about some of the realities of Parkinson's in Canada. And we're just going to have a slideshow come up. Awesome, thanks. Next slide. So today, there are over 100,000 Canadians living with Parkinson's. Globally, the number of Parkinson's cases is rising, and Parkinson's disease has the fastest growing rates of death and disability compared to other neurological conditions such as dementias, multiple sclerosis, and stroke. Another 25 Canadians will be diagnosed today, and that number is predicted to grow to 50 new diagnoses per day within the decade. In fact, Canada has one of the highest prevalence rates of Parkinson's in the world. Next slide. So what is Parkinson's? Parkinson's is a chronic progressive brain disease that occurs when certain brain cells involved in the coordination of movement are dying. But what does that really mean? In the brain, different areas are responsible for different functions. Some areas help us breathe, other areas help us talk, and some areas are involved in movement. In Parkinson's, one area of the brain that is involved in the coordination of movement starts dying. Actually, go back to the previous slide. I'll be here a minute, sorry. Now, you may have heard the term neurodegenerative used to describe conditions like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. That term means that these type of conditions involve brain cells dying. In Alzheimer's, cells are dying in areas of the brain related to memory, and in Parkinson's, that cell death is occurring in areas related to movement. Now, when we use the word chronic, that means once someone is diagnosed with Parkinson's, they will continue to live with the disease for the rest of their life, as there's currently no cure. And lastly, progressive means that the damage occurring in the brain is ongoing. Doctors believe by the time a person starts to exhibit visible motor symptoms of Parkinson's, about 60 to 80% of cells in that brain area have already died. And that cell death will continue on, which causes existing symptoms to worsen and new symptoms to appear. Now, the last thing I want to say here is that we've talked a lot about brain cells related to movement, but that isn't the only thing that's impacted. Parkinson's affects many different parts of the brain and the body, and you'll come to learn that non-motor symptoms are just as important to the Parkinson's experience. Next slide. So what are the different symptoms of Parkinson's? Some of the motor symptoms you might be familiar with include a tremor, and specifically a resting tremor that happens when someone isn't moving. People with Parkinson's can also experience tightness or muscle stiffness, and they can have slowed execution of movement, so slowed walking or any forms of movement. And lastly, some people with Parkinson's will experience difficulty with balance. While those are some of the main motor symptoms, as I mentioned, non-motor symptoms are also important. There are more than 20 non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's. I won't name them all, but a few key ones include issues with sleep, depression and anxiety, and different forms of cognitive impairment, including dementia in some cases. Studies have shown when you ask people with Parkinson's, it's actually the non-motor symptoms that they find more debilitating. And it's also important to remember that each person with Parkinson's may have a different mix of symptoms and different levels of symptom severity. So for each person with Parkinson's, the experience is unique. Next slide, thanks. So diagnosing Parkinson's. The average age of diagnosis is 60, but there is a portion of the Parkinson's population diagnosed before the age of 50, and these individuals are referred to as having early onset Parkinson's. Unfortunately, there is no definitive test to confirm Parkinson's. Some people may get asked to do blood work or a brain scan as part of the diagnosis process, but that's actually just to rule out other causes for their symptoms. None of those tests are definitively looking for Parkinson's because that test does not currently exist. Instead, what happens is Parkinson's is diagnosed by a clinical assessment. A doctor will take a medical history and do a physical exam of the individual, looking for distinction in mobility or changes in muscle tone, and then they'll make the diagnosis based on their observations. Next slide. So a diagnosis based on clinical exam requires a doctor or nurse who is familiar enough with Parkinson's, and it means symptoms have to have progressed enough to be visible in the exam. Diagnosis based on clinical assessment, therefore, has limitations. In a survey of the Parkinson's community in Canada, we found that 1 in 5 people with Parkinson's waited a year or more to receive their diagnosis after they reported their symptoms to a medical professional. Often delays in diagnosis occur in populations that are less often considered for Parkinson's, such as younger individuals or people of color. And in all cases, diagnostic delays can cause distress and uncertainty for the individual and their families. It means people are delayed from getting symptomatic relief, and it prevents people from making plans on how they will live well with Parkinson's. For all these reasons and more, Parkinson Canada research program invests in funding to look for new methods for detecting and diagnosing Parkinson's. Next slide. Managing Parkinson's. There are three main therapeutic approaches for Parkinson's. It's important to keep in mind as we're talking about these that none of these treatments completely stop or slow down the progression of Parkinson's, but they can be very helpful for managing certain symptoms. Parkinson's medications relieve symptoms by compensating for an important brain chemical called dopamine that is lost due to the brain cell death I was talking about earlier. PD medications are most helpful for motor-related symptoms. And there are also surgical procedures that can help with symptom relief. Again, they are especially helpful for motor symptoms. Lastly, there's exercise. Exercise is very fundamental to the management of Parkinson's. Research has shown if someone introduces a regular exercise regime early into their diagnosis, they do end up having better health outcomes later compared to individuals with Parkinson's who didn't exercise. Also, exercise is great because it has the ability to impact a wide variety of symptoms. It can help with mobility, but it's also helpful for sleep issues, constipation, mood symptoms, and cognition. So it's really this well-rounded approach. And lastly, exercise is great because it's an opportunity to socialize. The picture that I have here is actually from Parkinson Canada's Pedaling for Parkinson's event, which happens every summer. There's lots of ways to connect with your Parkinson's community, and Parkinson Canada is here to help you find exercise options, support groups, and other means of connection in your area. Next slide. Because Parkinson's is such a unique disease that impacts so many parts of the brain and body, it helps to have healthcare professionals who are familiar with the condition. Unfortunately, access to care is a significant challenge for our community. Neurologists who have done specific training in diseases like Parkinson's are called movement disorder specialists, or MDSs. In Canada, there is about one movement disorder specialist for every 1,400 people with Parkinson's. Most of those specialists are located in major cities, making access even more difficult for Canadians in rural and remote areas of the country. Before COVID, we did a survey on wait times, and we found the national wait time average to see a movement disorder specialist was 11 months, with some areas experiencing wait times of 2 years or more. And it's not just about the medical doctors. Because Parkinson's impacts so many different parts of the body, there are many different types of healthcare professionals that can be of tremendous benefit. Speech therapists can help with speech or swallowing issues, physiotherapists can assist with mobility, and dietitians can help with nutritional information. But the majority of allied healthcare professionals only receive a limited amount of training on Parkinson's. Next slide. And that's why we're here to help. Parkinson's affects so many people in so many different ways, and that means there's no one-size-fits-all approach. As your partners in Parkinson's, we are here to work alongside you to identify your key needs and help you find management strategies that make sense for you. To tell you a little bit more, I'm happy to hand things off to Bryce Perry, him, in Manitoba, who is our Information and Referral Manager.
Thank you, Maria. I really appreciate that. As Maria said, Information and Referrals here at Parkinson's Canada. I'm excited today to spend a few minutes and just share with you some of the things that we do in our department and how we can help you and how we connect people with Parkinson's to the Parkinson's community. So for example, if you just found out that your father has Parkinson's and the whole family is in a panic, who do you turn to? Or maybe your doctor wrote you a prescription for a new Parkinson's drug and you can't remember the side effects that were mentioned. Who can fill you in? Or you just read about a miracle cure for Parkinson's on the internet. How can you find out if this information is real or not? So for these kind of questions, and for many other questions and concerns related to living with Parkinson's, Parkinson's Canada offers you an information and referral as one of its many core services available across the country. We're pleased to be able to share more information today to help you better understand how you can use this service throughout your Parkinson's journey, from diagnosis till at every stage and every step along the way. We're here for you. So when people call us, they're often calling at a specific point in time. When they're first diagnosed, at mid-stage point when symptoms are changing, and at later stages when people may be planning for long-term care or intensive support. There can often be a lot of stress, a lot of emotions, and sometimes they may not be able to express their actual needs, or maybe feel strange telling a stranger what is going on, and maybe needing someone to give them hope. When you don't know where to start, it can be challenging. It can be challenging to get the assistance that you require, and having personal experience is calling multiple and ending up with mixed results can take a lot of time and a lot of energy. And going on the internet and Googling can lead you down rabbit holes. Well, with Information Referral at Parkinson's Canada, we strive to provide you with all the information and connections that you need in one simple step. Our team is trained to assess needs to help you better understand your situations and empower you to make informed decisions about possible solutions. We're a team that cares and want to connect with you. We can help guide you through the right steps and provide vital information about your local community, social, your health, government programs, services that are available to people with Parkinson's. Our job is to provide you and connect you to the information that you need to better understand and to better manage your health. We strive to provide people with Parkinson's with information that is evidence-informed, it's reliable, and it's very consistent. We can help you find programs and services in your local communities that are appropriate to your needs, and it will meet your individual needs. And we're able to connect you with Parkinson Canada programs and community. Our information referral team can assist you with a variety of inquiries, from really basic, simple questions to really more complex questions. Some of the most frequent questions are around general Parkinson's information, new diagnosis, symptom management, medication management, support treatments, and a variety of things. Parkinson's research, wellness, exercise, or how do you access community programs, or what community programs are available to you? The team also works closely with our programs and our service team to ensure that people are connected directly to our programs, our services, such as our support groups, our education opportunities, and our wellness programs. Though our team can provide up-to-date information on Parkinson's and care management, it's really important to note that our team, it's not a crisis center, and we are not medical or legal experts, and that therefore we can't provide you with medical or legal advice, but we can definitely point you in the right direction. Our purpose really is to meet the needs of Canadians living with Parkinson's by enhancing their knowledge in order to help them feel empowered and to make informed decisions. We're there for the care partners as well. We'll make connections for you, with you, to the community programs, to healthcare professionals who are knowledgeable about Parkinson's. But ultimately, you should always speak with your healthcare professionals before making any changes to medication or care plan. We're really there to help you and assist you and make you be a personal advocate for yourself with the healthcare system. The information referral team provides information nationwide, and we have team members that are located all across the country in Western Canada, Ontario, Montreal, and New Brunswick. We provide service from every day, Monday to Friday, or every weekday, Monday to Friday, so 3 times, Monday to Friday, from 9 to 5 p.m. Eastern time, by phone, or you can even email. There'll be numbers on the screen that you can contact that has our 800 number, a toll-free 800 number, and also our email address. So I thought it would be a really interesting time to be able to we get a lot of questions in regards to what exactly do we do, and what exact questions do we have. So I thought it might be really interesting to bring on one of our team members from the INR department, and her name is Caitlin DeBover, and her pronouns are she, her, and I'd like to bring Caitlin on, and we're going to do a question and answer so that we can navigate through some of the things that you might be thinking about or have questions about. Hi, Caitlin.
Hi, Bryce. Thank you so much for that introduction. So to start off, I was thinking I could just go over a few things about our program. And one of the most common questions that we tend to get, people generally will wonder, what areas of Canada do we service? And in short, at Parkinson Canada, we do provide service and support countrywide, and that is from coast to coast. As Bryce mentioned, we do have staff members who were strategically hired across Canada for that same purpose. So we at Parkinson Canada, our main goal is to be your one-stop shop for everything Parkinson related.
I think, Caitlin, that's a really interesting comment, and it's interesting because a lot of people think that they're calling an 800 number, and it's going off to a call center or something. And the reality is that we have a dedicated, caring, trained staff right here in Canada, right? And we're strategic, like you said, strategically placed across Canada, and that way we can connect no matter where you are, big cities, small towns, Manitoba, wherever it might be. It's funny because Cameron at the beginning was like, I don't know where Melfort, I think it was Melfort, Saskatchewan was, and that's okay. But in Melfort, Saskatchewan, from Toronto to Melfort to Winnipeg to Vancouver, our goal is to be there to, receive your call, care for you, and really be that partner with them, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And to further that, we will also generally get questions. A lot of people are wondering if the majority of these calls, who is able to call essentially? Is it just the person diagnosed with Parkinson's? And although many of our calls do come from the person with that diagnosis, a lot of our calls quite frequently come from family members, friends, a lot of healthcare workers. So we also collaborate closely with support workers, and we get calls from assisted live-in facilities as well as nursing homes. So generally speaking, essentially, no, you don't need to have the diagnosis of Parkinson. Anyone is welcome to call, and we very much are here to help you throughout this journey.
That's an excellent point. I tend to think of it like, for a person with Parkinson's, and just in full disclosure, which I am one, for a person with Parkinson's and their caregivers, we really that direct. We want to be that direct connection, right? Like we said, from early diagnosis to any even simple questions to not even knowing what to say. We'll receive that with health things. We really want to be a partner with them, right? A partner with them so that their patients, their clients, have an outlet to come and ask those questions that maybe they might not have those specific answers for, or those resources, or to point them in the right direction. And I think that's really important because I find it interesting, and you said that, calls do come from the caregivers. And I find that really interesting when the person with Parkinson's is maybe that second call, maybe their husband, their wife, their children, are phoning first to get information. And so, we really want to stress that, there isn't a silly question. There isn't a silly inquiry. So if you are someone with dealing with Parkinson's, whether, from diagnosis to whatever stage you're at, that we're there for them, and that we will be that connection for them to either connect them to the right opportunities or connect them to the right things that they need to get into, or just to connect with them and be that voice, be that ear that they can leave, that show,
Absolutely. And really just to echo what you just said, Bryce, in addition to all of that, we really want to provide that holistic approach and being an advocate, not only for the person with Parkinson's, but we want to encourage that individual to advocate for themselves, and we are here to help them connect with those resources and that support that they need throughout this journey.
Great. Hey, I got a question for you, Caitlin. Do we only provide services in English?
That is a wonderful question. So we do provide services both in French and English. So of course, whatever language you prefer to speak in, we can certainly provide those services in bilingual.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Definitely not me, but I'll stick to the English. But another thing, and one of the other things that we really do, come across a lot really is when should someone connect with us? Like when is that opportune time for them? And I don't know, what would you say, when would be the best time for somebody to connect with our information line?
Absolutely. I think the best time to connect is very much as soon as possible. If you are going through that process of your new diagnosis, it can be very scary and you may not know where to turn. So certainly as soon as you're on that path, give us a call. And even though you may not have questions for us, we would be able to guide you in the direction to help you live with Parkinson's. And by doing so, we'll be able to provide you with preventative measures and really just be in that primary point of contact for you. And in addition to that, we also encourage you to use the number more than just the one time. Continuously calling us. Perhaps your symptoms or the stages that you're going through will change, and if you need our support, we are there for you. And not just to provide that one-on-one support for you, but also for your healthcare provider, anyone who is part of your care team. We're there for you to help you through this journey.
Personal testimony. So I'm really passionate about our department, right? Because, when I got diagnosed 10 years ago, it's a frustrating time. It's a confusing time. It's a time when you have so many questions, you don't even know you don't know where to start. And I'll be honest, when we started kind of getting into when I got diagnosed, if people out there, if you're like me, I went right to Google and I was just on the internet, Googling. And I didn't quite understand, you don't really know what's real, right? Like there's so many things out there. And actually, to be honest with you, when I started Googling things, it was more scary for me at that point. And if at that point in that stage, if I would have known that there was this 800 number or an email address that I could just reach out and just say, I got diagnosed. I don't even know where to start. I don't know what's available. What do I do? Really?
Absolutely.
I know my journey could have been quicker, maybe with less anxiety and maybe less fear, if that makes sense. So, having said that, if I was, just newly diagnosed and I emailed or I called the number, is there things for me? Is there resources for me that you would have been able to provide for me at that point?
Absolutely. So continuously, we always have resources to provide, not just for new diagnosis, but throughout every stage of Parkinson's. So if you gave us a call and you told us, hey, I have this new diagnosis, what information can be provided? We definitely, whether it's a hard copy or an electronic copy, we would provide you with an introduction guide to Parkinson's. And we would include some facts about the diagnosis, as well as connect you with an early stage support group. And in addition to the resources that we have, Parkinson Canada, we've been working closely to develop new information and materials to ensure that you are getting the information that is most up to date and accurate. For example, in the upcoming months, we've actually developed a partnership with Davis Phinney, and that's the Davis Phinney Foundation in the US. And we've actually adapted their Every Story Counts book. And this is a gold standard resource for people affected with Parkinson's disease. And we made it relevant for the Canadian audience. And that will also include Canadian statistics, medications, and as well as testimonials. So of course, to recap, we have plenty of resources, and every day we're still learning. New researches are coming out, and we are keeping up to date with that.
That's awesome. I think the other thing, like you said, with resources, we're constantly updating, and I think that's what's important to understand is that someone living with Parkinson's or their caregivers or intimately involved with it, that we have resources and things that we can all down the way, whether it be a digital download that we can send you, or we can email you that information. We can email you things. We things out, if we let's go old school and mail something out, but you can access that information quickly and fast, and I think sometimes if we can get that quick information right away, before we start hearing the rumors or that fear sets in, it can kind of help us along that way and help us along that journey. And I think one thing that I really want to throw out there is there's so many different questions, whether it become to sleepiness, tired, rest, pain. The one thing that's with Parkinson's, and we all know, is that everybody's journey is different. Parkinson's affects people in all different ways. Some, like let's talk about sleep, for example. Like with sleep, there's difficulty sleeping, there's restless leg syndrome, there's frozen shoulder, there's acting out your dreams, there's insomnia, there's tiredness during the day, which it's tired. Like for example, myself, at 3 o'clock, I was going through a tiredness. Now we don't really understand how much the disease, the tremors, the stiff, whatever takes extra energy. But one of the things that also is prevalent with Parkinson's is anxiety, is depression, apathy. And depression can also be very tiresome, and it can make you feel drained and tired. And, that's why, we suggest exercise is really important, so we can connect them. We can send out, and I look at that exercise, because whenever I think of that tiredness, that sleepiness, for me, it's like, I know I get that way when I'm not, physically active as I should be, or with the pandemic, it was a little harder in winter, especially being here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And if anybody's around Manitoba, it's like it's never going to end, so we can't get outside. But that's when we can provide them the info sheets, and we can provide them tips and books and things that can help them with exercise, but also the emotional side to it, the mental strain to it. And it's things like that some people don't want to reach out for sometimes, and I think there's a stigma to it. And I think if they realize we're there for them and it's all the same, that it's easier for them to reach out. And if I could say anything to anybody with Parkinson's, is you need to definitely, absolutely 100% connect with us, so that we can be your partner along your journey. Right, and be there for when you need us, but also connect you locally to other things, and like exercises, local exercise programs and whatnot.
Absolutely.
So the one last thing I wanted to key on, and then we're gonna turn it over here, is I mentioned it in the intro that we don't provide medical what's the way we medical questions.
Yes.
I guess here's the thing: do we answer medical questions? And I think what would you say to that?
That's a great question. So, as you mentioned earlier, we technically are not a medical team. So anything to do a deep dive into your medication history and your health, we certainly can provide guidance and provide support. So if you have questions about your medication, say you're taking a medication and you're not too sure what the side effects are, absolutely, we can touch on that. But if it's something around the lines that you want to try a new medication or stop your current medication, we, of course, since we're not healthcare professionals, we do encourage you, before changing anything in your medication or healthcare plan, to really reach out to a healthcare provider or your healthcare team. But in short, we certainly can give guidance.
That's awesome. And I look at it too, like we're like your personal ad to help you yourself, right? So, one of the things that
Exactly.
I know one of the team members does too, it's helping people make a chart when they're taking their medication, when their on and off periods are, and what the length of time, and really kind of helping them make a recording of it or a personal diary of it, so that they can take that to their healthcare professional and remind, here's where I'm at. So yeah, I think it's amazing that we have the technology to be able to phone an 800 number and be connected with somebody, in Canada that is just there for
Yes,
us.
absolutely. And that,
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to echo that. Honestly, that is our main focus, really, just being there for you. Being that primary point of contact, it's so important. Just knowing that you are speaking to someone who is there, who cares about you, who wants to help you throughout this journey. And really knowing that all of the resources, they will always be consistent. We will always connect you with the people that you need to be connected with. So I can't echo that enough. It's wonderful what the program can offer.
That's awesome. Caitlin, thank you for joining with me today. And I'm going to say, I got, when I came on board with Parkinson Canada, one of my main things is I really I wanted to advocate for programs, for services, for things. And as I felt there's a lack, in Canada, United States with things. But I'll tell you the one thing with yourself and the other team members, I've been overwhelmed by the heart of this team and the passion that they have to help people with Parkinson's. So thank you, and thank the fellow teams, and it makes my job easier, and it makes everybody know that when you're calling, you're not just calling somebody who's just wants to take down information. They really care and really want to help. So I appreciate that. So thank you very much. And I encourage anybody out there, the numbers are on the screen, the 800 numbers there, the email address is there, reach out to us, any questions, we're there for you all the time. And we want to be, your partners in this Parkinson's. So, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Krista Duncan. Her pronouns are she and her, and she is a program and services coordinator, and she is from Ottawa, Ontario.
Thank you so much, Bryce. Hi, everyone. As Bryce said, my name is Krista Duncan, she, her, and I am a Programs and Services Coordinator here at Parkinson Canada, and I'm located in Ottawa, Ontario. So in my role, I am the lead of the Health and Wellness Partnerships, and I also coordinate many of our local support groups. Before I begin telling you more about our incredible support groups, I want to take a moment to tell you about some of the exciting things that our Programs and Services team are working on. Parkinson Canada's monthly webinars address the diverse needs of people living with Parkinson's and those in their care circles by providing trustworthy information on a variety of subjects, including medication management, advanced Parkinson's and estate planning, emerging therapies, and grieving and loss tools for the caregiver. A couple of months ago, we hosted an interactive webinar focusing on Parkinson's and exercise, where participants had the opportunity to try out live their choice of 6 different Parkinson exercise program demo classes. We were excited to be hosting a webinar on stigma in May and are planning future webinars on topics such as mental health, patient involvement in clinical trials, the launch of the Canadian version of Every Victory Counts, and more. Parkinson Canada is currently developing a peer-to-peer program that will aim to match the person living with Parkinson's or care partners with someone with lived experience. This is to help reduce isolation and for them to learn how to live well with Parkinson's. This program will be led by evidence-based results that demonstrate the importance of sharing experiences and building community with others in a one-to-one setting that often result in a sense of belonging, support, and resiliency, and a higher quality of life. Many diagnosed with Parkinson's may not know anyone that has lived with Parkinson's who they can reach out to for support, or they may not feel comfortable sharing their diagnosis in groups or with friends or coworkers, but still need to talk to somebody confidentially. Lastly, we are excited to share that we will be entering into some health and wellness partnerships with a variety of providers in an effort to bring even more programs and support to the Parkinson community. These partnerships will range from regional to national programs, in-person and virtual options, and may include everything from exercise to speech programs, mental health, and more. Please ensure that you have subscribed to receive our Parkinson Canada newsletters so that you don't miss hearing about any of these wonderful programs in the future. Now let's chat about support groups. Parkinson Canada support groups help to support both people living with Parkinson's and their families, providing a space for people to come together, connect, and learn from one another. The groups help to reduce isolation and remind people that they are not alone. With the help of some wonderful volunteers, Parkinson Canada hosts over 100 support groups across the country. These groups are not only general support groups for people living with Parkinson's, but they include a variety of other groups as well. Parkinson Canada recognizes that people living with Parkinson's can experience things quite differently and that circumstances change. Therefore, we have a variety of support groups that look to address some of these unique needs. These include groups for those who are newly diagnosed, those living with young onset Parkinson's, adult children care partners, early stages care partners, advanced stages care partners, atypical care partner support groups, to name a few. We recently began transitioning our support groups back to in-person meetings. However, many support groups do remain virtual, being hosted over Zoom. This means that if you don't currently have a support group near you, or you're unable to get to your nearest support group meeting, you can still attend regular support group meetings from the comfort of your own home. If there are people who are unable to use Zoom, we do also offer a toll-free number so that people can call in and join the conversation by phone. My colleagues and I often hear feedback from support group members and facilitators alike about how impactful these groups can be. One member reached out and said, "The caregiver support group has given me the lifeline I so desperately needed. I felt like I was on the verge of a complete mental breakdown, as was probably evident in the first caregiver support group meeting that I attended. I so look forward to each monthly meeting, and I so wish that it was more often than only once a month." That is quite the testimonial. I'd now like to introduce you to someone who sees the impact of support groups each and every month, I should say. That'd be a lot of work, Gord. Gord Myers is one of our amazing volunteer support group facilitators. He facilitates a Toronto support group, and he is joining us to chat about his experience and to offer some additional insight. Welcome, Gord.
Great to be here, Krista.
So thank you so much for joining not only me, but everyone here today and taking the time to chat with us about the impact of support groups.
My pleasure. But like I say, I'm glad to be here. I hope I can shed some light, I guess.
I'm sure you can. Yeah. I guess the best way for us to get started is to ask a little bit about yourself and maybe your connection to Parkinson's.
2010, actually April 1st, 2010, I was 52, 2 days before my 53rd birthday, and I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. I'm 65 now, if you do the math, but anyway. But before that, two years before that, leading up to it, the symptoms started, as with most people. They thinking back, they can remember things, and my life kind of started sort of falling apart. I'm a musician. I've done that all my life for a living, and teacher of music, and all my various contracts disappeared, and my ability to perform well. I thought I was having a nervous breakdown. All that stuff. Tremors began. My wife sent me off to the doctor to get the tremor looked at. 6 months later, I go to the doctor again, and then 6 months later, I'm seeing a neurologist, and 6 months after that is 2010. So that's my connection with Parkinson's, is living with it for the last 12 years and sort of dealing with the carnage it can cause. Not to over dramatize it, I'm fine, but yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And how did you become a support group facilitator? What made you decide to get involved in that way?
Well, I started going to support group. I was probably about a year and a half after after diagnosis. You get tired, as Bryce was saying. The Mr. Google, it takes you to all the wrong places. So I decided to join a support group at I called Parkinson's Canada. It was Parkinson's Society then, but I called Parkinson's Canada and went and joined a group led by Bev Lavender, who was a godsend. She was great. And when she only did it for a couple more years, and nobody was stepping up to facilitate, and I didn't want to lose the connection I had with these amazing people. So I volunteered to be a facilitator. So I guess it's about 10 years later, I'm still doing it.
Wow.
And it's great. I'm not knocking it at all. It's been a really great thing.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you're very busy. You volunteer.
Oh yes, I wanted to mention that. I think partially, yeah, in some ways, probably because of my facilitator work as a facilitator, I got shoved forward as a possible board member and ended up becoming a board member of the Patients Advisory Board at Toronto Western at the Movement Disorder Clinic there. And now I'm chair of it now, and we're doing some great work.
That's wonderful.
So yeah, I got my hands full with Parkinson's advocacy, and it's a good thing.
That's fantastic. We're grateful that you still have time for the group. It sounds like you're a wonderful fit. And based on your experiences, in your opinion, why do you think support groups are important for those folks that are attending?
It's connection, a human connection. It's very isolating having a disease that you can only read about, and you're all just once every 6 months that you see, if you're lucky enough to have one, and lucky enough like me to have one at a movement disorder center or clinic. So yeah, it's that connection, that place. Funny, we had just had a meeting on last Monday, and I was telling sort of jokingly with a new member that this is the one place you can talk all you want about medications and you won't bore everybody in the room. But it's true. You can get good information from the source.
Yeah.
But it's that connection that's really the most important thing.
That's wonderful. So I think you've kind of touched on it, but what do you think these groups mean to those people living with Parkinson's?
Yeah, well, let's say it's the human connection that you make. I mean, I just think one of the main reasons I work as hard as I do at trying to help and advocating and speaking out and doing things is that some of the people I met initially in the very beginning of the support groups were diagnosed at the same time as me, and like 3 or 4 years later, they're not able to walk or talk, or their lives are severely compromised. And I'm kind of dancing up the middle, going, I'm pretty good. I can run, I can skate. I have obvious symptoms, but I'm doing pretty well. So it's kind of I kind of feel like it's for those people that I do this. So it really becomes like a family. I don't want to overdo it, but it's kind of a family connection. It's a unique bond.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we hear that a lot on our team, folks that say people become more like family, and they end up meeting outside of the group quite often and make those friends and connections, which is very important. So no, absolutely. Perfect. And what would you say to anyone that's thinking about either getting involved in a Parkinson Canada support group, either joining as a member or possibly signing on as a support group facilitator? What would you say to those folks?
Well, certainly as a member, just do it, join. It doesn't take much of your time, and the return is huge. And both for you and what you give for other people. And as far as becoming a facilitator, that depends on the person. Some people just it's not in them to do it, and I'm not sure it was initially in me really, but I kind of filled a void, and learning as I go, I've gotten okay at it, and met so many great people. And also another thing, the support group is the most important thing is the discussions that you have, whatever it may be, whether it's Parkinson related or not. And we're always wondering if we should have a presenter every week, somebody, and it's great to have presenters at support groups, but the primary purpose is to talk, and if something's bothering you, you bring it up, and it gets thrown around the room, and I've been at so many meetings where nothing was particularly planned, maybe a couple of agenda items, but the discussion could have gone on for hours. Well, went on for the full 2 hours at least. So yeah, I just do it, get involved. There's so much to be learned, and about yourself and about Parkinson's, of course, but yeah, you'll never regret it, I guess is what I'd say.
Great advice. Just get involved. Yeah, come on out. No, that's wonderful. It's so nice to have the perspective of someone that goes to a group regularly, that leads a group that started out as a support group member and is now facilitating and seeing that impact on folks. So I thank you so much for joining us today, Gord, and we appreciate all that you do and all of your support of the Parkinson community. So thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And I just want to add, if you would like to learn more about Parkinson Canada support groups, you can visit parkinson.ca or call us at the 1-800 number that you've been seeing, 1-800-565-3000. Or to volunteer with Parkinson Canada, you can visit that same webpage and visit the volunteer page on that website. Direct links have been added to the chat for much of what I've been chatting about here today. Now, we're going to head over to Toronto and to my colleague, Graham Marshall-Coltis, him, the Manager of Volunteer Engagement, People and Culture. Over to you, Graham.
Hi, Krista. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gord. It was wonderful to hear your perspective on support groups. It's always so inspiring for me to hear those stories. So I really appreciate that you were here, as we all do. So I'm Graham Marshall-Coltis, him, and I'm the Manager of Volunteer Engagement at Parkinson Canada. Maybe you know, maybe you don't, Parkinson Canada has been around since 1967. So since 1967, volunteers have been indispensable here. We have a rich history of dedicated, skilled, and caring volunteers doing lots of different things over the years. Right now, many of our volunteers are supportive of fundraisers like Super Walk, Pedaling for Parkinson's, and other community-based events. Volunteers who, as we just heard through Gord and Krista, just play an incredibly critical role in increasing knowledge, friendship, and a sense of belonging through support groups and a whole host of other community engagement initiatives, which are sort of happening and on the way. Volunteers in our ambassador program, which I'll speak to you a little more about in a moment. The Parkinson Advisory Council, which you will hear a lot more about in a moment, and our board of directors. So volunteers really are active at every level of Parkinson Canada, and we're always welcoming applications and conversations about volunteering, and some of those things are already in the chat, as you know. So about the ambassador program, we're currently re-energizing the ambassador program. So I would just like to take a moment to speak to that, if I may. In case you don't know, Parkinson Canada ambassadors are volunteers who play a role provincially, nationally, and in a pan-Canadian level around government relations and advocacy. Ambassadors affect changes in policy and policies that impact people living with Parkinson's and people affected by Parkinson's all across the country. Ambassadors receive training and support to participate in a national network of volunteers. So no one ambassador is kind of left alone, even though we're all operating from different parts of the country. There's a strong connection between ambassadors and also from Parkinson Canada to ambassadors. And I think one of the most appealing parts of becoming an ambassador to many volunteers is that there's no one way to be an ambassador. There are many different things you could do. You can write a couple of letters, you can go sit and meet with your MP or MPP. There's a whole host of things that you could do. And anything that you do as an ambassador can be tailored to you, to your needs and your availability. So I think that's one thing that's, like I said, that's very appealing. And I hope that people will consider, again, check out the chat for the links just to find out how to get more information or to apply. We're also looking for volunteers right now for Super Walk, which is our national annual walk that comes up in the fall, and also a couple of events called Pedaling for Parkinson's, which are just absolutely incredible, inspiring people who get on their bikes and ride further than I could ride in a month in the span of a few days. So that's another opportunity as well, and support group facilitation, of course. So if you love Gord and you want to be like Gord, that's something that you can look into too. Now, I would like to turn my attention and consequently our attention to the Parkinson Advisory Council. The other way we describe that is to call it the PAC. So the Parkinson Advisory Council, and thank you, Lloyd, our guest Lloyd has just turned his camera on, so welcome, Lloyd. The PAC was created to help ensure the voices of those living with Parkinson's are integrated into everything we do at Parkinson Canada. PAC members advise the CEO, Karen Lee, who you met at the beginning of our webinar. They promote the inclusion of people living with Parkinson's at every level of the organization. They champion the vision of Parkinson Canada, and also, and maybe Lloyd will touch on this or not, I'm not sure, Lloyd, but they also provide some advice to committees and some projects that we work on too. So we're very, very fortunate to have Lloyd here with us today. Lloyd is in Ottawa, Ontario. He's been an active and very dedicated volunteer with Parkinson Canada for many, many years. So thank you for joining us, Lloyd. Could I ask you to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for that introduction. I've had Parkinson's for over 15 years. I was diagnosed with early onset. I worked in healthcare my entire career, mostly in the admin leadership side of things, but I had to retire early because of my Parkinson's. When I retired, I got involved in Parkinson Society at the time, volunteered on national and provincial advocacy planning committees, and also worked on some local projects here in Ottawa with our local advisory committee at the time. I've been a subject in many research projects, and I've raised money and helped out at the Super Walk as well. So those are some of my volunteer experiences here.
Great, thank you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your role on the Parkinson Advisory Council, maybe what brought you to it?
Sure. Well, I think what brought me to it was once I retired, I think all of us should have a purpose to work on. And I felt that I wanted to contribute to a cause that meant something to me. And obviously Parkinson's Canada fits that bill, and it keeps my mind active and engaged. Parkinson's can wear us down either mentally, physically, emotionally at times, and it can be discouraging, the slow progress towards a cure. But there's a lot of hope in research of new drugs, of use of technologies in care, and in the biology of PD. And I think if we're going to speed up the progress of this research and the learning, it's important for those of us with Parkinson's not to give in or give up to this disease, but to get up and get on with the work that's required to in various initiatives that can improve the lives not only of ourselves with Parkinson's now, but for future generations, which I think is very important. PAC is filling that bill really well. I mean, this is a group of incredible individuals. I'm very impressed from across the country with a variety of experience and skills and expertise. And they bring a key perspective individually as well as collectively, because as you know, we all have different symptoms and different progression of the disease. So there's that different perspective, but there's also a different perspective they bring in terms of their expertise. And I think including people with Parkinson's in Parkinson Canada's planning and strategy and evaluation makes those planning, strategy, and evaluation much more stronger and helpful in supporting individuals. I think also you mentioned, you asked, yeah, Parkinson's Canada, the Parkinson's Advisory Council is also a conduit to those between Parkinson's Canada and to those with Parkinson's in the community who may not be volunteering or be involved in anything directly. And also a conduit to other committees, as you mentioned, with whether it be research or clinical work, and we provide input into some of those ongoing projects as well. I find the staff very welcoming, and they've been welcomed to Parkinson's Advisory Council very warmly, and I think we're going to accomplish a lot over the years.
Yeah, I agree. Lloyd, you and I have had a little bit of an opportunity to work together on a project, and I wondered in advance sort of, how that relationship would go, because you are in an advisory role, but it went so well. And I mean, we were lucky. We kind of got to go through, people's, CVs and pick out the expertise that, that we thought, might go well. And you just brought a wealth of information and expertise, and I think sort of patience and teasing out some of the answers to the questions that we had. So I really appreciate that, and I know that I've heard from my colleagues across the organization who just have had really wonderful, fabulous experiences.
Well, thank you. It's a learning experience to go from leadership positions in your career to advisory positions as a volunteer, and you've got to know where that line draws, and yeah, so it's been a learning experience for me, and I've enjoyed it.
Do you have any advice for people who are maybe making that switch?
Well, I think it's important for anyone to get involved in volunteering in one way or another, whether it be research or as an advocate or as a volunteer or as a member of Parkinson Advisory Council, or a fundraiser. There's many ways to get involved, and I think all are beneficial, and I think all provide a meaningful contribution to the ongoing evolution of Parkinson's in Canada.
Yeah. Thinking about the impact of PAC, PAC has been around for about a year. So you're sort of on the inaugural team for PAC, but thinking about the impact that you've had, the Advisory Council has had so far, is there any particular thing that you feel the most proud of, or that you've had the most sort of impact with, or you feel that you've brought the most value to, maybe?
Well, a couple of things come to mind. So specifically with PAC, I think, I'm not saying this just because you're the one interviewing me, Graham, but I think I've enjoyed and been probably most involved in the development of volunteer survey we're working on. That's becoming out later, not too long from now, I think.
Yeah.
That's been a great experience. I've enjoyed that. And it's very sort of something concrete we can say we've accomplished together. In the bigger picture, I think one of the things I guess I'm most proud of to be involved with was the securing the, not that I secured the funding, but being part of a group that secured the funding for C-Open, the Canadian Open Parkinson's Network. I think that project, I was involved with the advocacy committee who helped contribute some ideas to the ask that we brought to MPs on Parliament Hill. I was one of the Parkinson's Advocacy Committee members that went to Parliament Hill to talk to the MPs, and then to have their positive response and get funding for that project was a very rewarding experience. It happened fairly quickly in those things usually take many, many years. And I think that is opening up a network and database for researchers to really speed up the process of their research and give them valuable data that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, and I think that probably over the years, you have contributed to so many different initiatives here that you could probably trace a lot of positive change and movement to your involvement and your time at Parkinson Canada. So, I mean, I think that, not that you're going anywhere, nobody will let you go anywhere, but I think that's part of, your legacy at Parkinson Canada too, is to contribute in that way. Maybe a few final words. Do you have any advice for someone who might want to either come to volunteer here or apply to be on the PAC, or sort of any, big learnings that you want to share with us? And there will be time at the end for people to ask questions as well. So if you have something else to add, don't feel you've missed your chance here.
I think I probably might repeat myself, but I think as I said, there's lots of opportunities. I think it's important that those of us with Parkinson's are involved in supporting the research, because if you ask researchers what their biggest needs are, number one is money, but number two is subjects. They don't have enough. We need more people to be involved, and I think that applies to across the board, whether it's fundraising or volunteering in events or the Parkinson's Advisory Council. I think the Advisory Council, if you're interested in being involved in that, it's an opportunity to get to know others across the country who have Parkinson's and a variety of expertise, and see how things are progressing elsewhere and what you can bring back to your own community. And I think being willing to as I say, get up and get on with the idea of trying to beat this disease and see what we can contribute is important.
Right. Thank you. I love that. Get up, get on. I wrote it down the first time you said it. So thank you so much, Lloyd. I really appreciate you chatting with us. And now I will pass things back over to my colleague and our moderator, Cameron Duncan.
Thank you, Graham. And really thank you to all of our presenters today. It's been fantastic hearing little glimpses into some of the key programs and services that we have